This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I'm Dr. Travis Perry. Joining with us today is Broc Buckles. Broc is the co-founder of BC Brokerage with Peter Ciravolo. Okay, I totally probably destroyed it, so I'm going to start over. How do you say that?
Ciravolo.
Yeah. I should have looked at that before. I'm like,
No
there's a word.
No worries.
Ciravolo or Ciravolo?
Ciravolo.
Sure. Ciravolo. Okay. Ciravolo. Yep. Okay. So Broc co-founded BC Brokerage with Peter Ciravolo. It's an insurance brokerage that works with fee-only financial planners to facilitate insurance in a trusted way. Welcome, Broc, to the podcast.
Hey, man. Thanks, Travis. It's great to be here. I've been excited for this one, man.
Absolutely. Since actually when I first talked, I remember it was actually on the road and I was listening to your story, just fascinated because we have actually a lot in common. Your story is fun to, learn from and see where you've got into this industry. So we're going to start right there. Tell us how you got into the industry and how did you end up, staying around?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, really starting out, it was just an internship opportunity. I'm sure not unlike a lot of people who end up, at one of the bigger insurance companies. I was invited actually by a buddy. I was in college at the time and he said, "Hey, we need something to do for the summer. So do you want to do this?" And, I was a criminal justice major and then majored in communication. So I think it's relevant to everything, but certainly nothing finance related. So, more or less, I was like, sure, I guess so. And, he actually decided not to end up doing it, but I needed something to do for the summer and I was already signed up and life and health licensed. So I showed up. And it was something a lot different than what I thought it was going to be. It was about insurance and, ended up sticking it out at that company for about 6 years and, learned a lot, appreciate a lot of the things that I learned, ultimately wanted to do, something else. And so, when I left there was a few things that I knew. One, I don't want to be a financial planner. Two, I love talking to people and building relationships. And three, I know a lot about insurance now. So either I'm going to use that or I'm going into a completely different industry like pharmaceutical sales. I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to do, but that was kind of the idea. So founded BC Brokerage and here we are today, man.
That's great. So I'm not sure if you want to say the company that you work for, but I think it was the same one that I started off with, Northwestern, right? That you worked with. Yeah. I have the kind of the same feeling as I got in thinking, this is going to be a great experience. And it was, but the way I relate it is that, this is kind of like the top, the big four of going to an accounting firm. Sure. You got to start somewhere. You got to learn. Sure. And, I was on Kit's podcast and we talked about this, how, it's not maybe the best long-term fit for everyone, but it is a door that many advisors walk through first. Sure. So, I'm excited that you stuck around and you're helping other advisors with what you're doing because you have such a great knowledge base, a place where a lot of advisors don't want to necessarily focus on a lot. And so there, you provide that bridge, which is exceptional. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast, but sure. Tell me, as we get into balance and talking about balance and issues that you've seen in the industry and such with other advisors, what is your definition of balance?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I think early on in my career, I didn't really have much of a definition of balance. It was like work as hard as I possibly can, make as many dials as I possibly can, talk to as many people, call as many friends and family members as I possibly can to try to get to that next level so that one day I could have some sort of balance, right? And there was not this notion or understanding that two of those things could coincide and they could exist, right, together. And so now, I see balance as a place to where I'm mentally clear enough by doing the things that I need to do on a daily basis to be able to do what I need to do at work. And what that means for me is ultimately having freedom, taking necessary breaks away from work when I need to, right? I travel a lot. I've been to a lot of different places. In the last couple of years doing this, I have the benefit of, working virtually, so I'm able to. But to me, balance is having clarity in all aspects of your life, really, personally, professionally, and financially, knowing where you are and not focusing too much on one of those. Because if all you do is have fun, you never get the rest of the stuff done. And if all you do is work, you never have time for yourself. And so I think that was a hard lesson for me to learn. But once I learned it through things like working out and meditation, and it really helped me find a sense of balance in myself and really clarifying my values and understanding what was important to me, which I think I was living other people's values previously, when I wasn't working for myself. And I just realized that's not what I wanted to do anymore.
Yeah, you have a really good perspective there. The too much fun, not enough work, too much work, not enough fun, like having a balance that comes to you, and everybody has a different definition, right? Everybody 100%. I've ever asked this question, but for you, it sounds like you feel balanced when you're working out and you're meditating, because you're going to work.
Yeah, 100%. Right? That's inevitable. The bills have to be
you're
paid.
Going to, but it's never like, well, man, I got to work today, and pulling yourself away from the gym. Like, I've got to work today. Like, it's always usually the other way around. How can I get to the gym today? Yep. I purposely set up my route on the way home from this office directly past the gym. So even if if I miss it, I'm like, all right, man, like I missed it. I've got to go past that.
Right. Yeah. You have to at least see it.
Exactly. At least there's the ouch, right? Otherwise it's also on the way home on purpose so that I can slip right in and then head home. Like yesterday, I got like a 20-minute workout, which is nothing, but it was better than not doing anything at all because of my tight schedule. And, it's just because I've created that pathway. And so I love that you're feeling like I got to meditate, got to work out. And like I said, everybody has different definitions of balance, but what I've found in common is that it's typically a feeling. It's typically something you're like, oh yeah, I feel balanced when I'm able to do these actions. So those are really important to you, your physical and mental health, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I really do. I notice a tangible difference as to the trajectory of my day, whether I'm doing those things or I'm not. Right. So it's like you meditated. Okay. Now I have an alignment of where I need to be. What do I need to be doing today? And I feel better about it. Like, you've got your head straight, you're clear, you're prioritizing, that you need to go make your dials, you need to go talk to people, or you need to, be on this meeting at your best. So yeah, 100%. I mean, that's it's helped me tremendously to just find those things.
Yeah, I love that. That's a big priority to you. So as an advisor, and now an advisor to advisors, I know you help a lot of advisors with BC Brokerage there. What are your biggest issues when, you personally trying to achieve that sense of balance you've just described?
Sure. Yeah. So with doing what I'm doing, I think it's just the passion and the wanting to grow the business at such a rapid pace and to meet as many people as I possibly can. And to feel like, there's a few things that go into the equation. There's hard work, right? And then there's just time, right? And we can work harder, but we can't speed up time. And so inevitably some of the growth in the business is going to be by word of mouth and people hearing what you're doing and people have good experiences and sending you more things. And so I tend to want to focus on how do I get more of that stuff coming in all the time. I find my brain on that. And so I kind of get stuck in a loop. And so I have to use those other things like meditation and working out and even just going for a walk around the neighborhood, like feeling fresh air on my face rather than be cooped up in the office all day. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that I feel constantly drawing me away from finding the balance. Although there's a lot of balance in my profession by doing that. I mean, those are the things that I really have to think about very constructively.
Yeah. Excellent. What do you see? You've worked with a lot of advisors.
Yeah.
What do you see as probably like the biggest issue or two or three for other advisors? Because we're all in different situations, right? We're all different ages. We're all different marital status, family sizes, length in the business, like you talked about, hard work and time in the business. And really a lot of it is just time being there for people so that they know how to find you. So obviously considering all those factors, and you've worked with a lot of advisors here, what do you think is some of their biggest issues trying to find their sense of balance?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that you can talk about that in a few different ways. One is how do they balance their personal life and their happiness with their professional life? I think a lot of times maybe there's with some of the guys or girls that I talk to, there's not enough work going on, right? We're not being proactive enough in the workspace to actually aggregate and cultivate those new clients, which I know you can do because I've done it, right? And then on the other end, there's other advisors that I talk to that are spending so much time on the business and recording videos and doing these things that they're just not finding any time to be able to focus on their personal life. Therefore, they're suffering from burnout and a lot of the other things that obviously, you would be familiar with. Right. And then on the other edge of the spectrum, I think that there's the professional balance between their outreach and the way that they're actually going out. So I talk to people all the time and they're like, I don't like making cold calls, or I don't like calling people. I don't like reaching out to people that way. Well, okay, I hear you. You want to be a content creator. I agree. I think that's a great way to do it. Or you want to have a podcast, right? But there's not balance between, okay, I know that the podcast is going to take time to get off the ground. So I need to be making some phone calls over here to supplement it. So from a professional standpoint, I talk to a lot of people who, in to the credit of the big organizations, that we came from, or Northwestern, you do learn how to call people. You do learn how to get in front of people. You do learn that personal aspect. But there's a little bit less concentration on having your own podcast or regulation around having your own podcast. So, those are some of the ways that I definitely see people struggling both with their personal and professional lives, and then within their professional lives as well.
You make several really good points that I don't think anyone, at least that I've interviewed to this point, I've interviewed literally hundreds of advisors, and I've asked them about this question.
Yeah.
They have never made this delineation. The only one that's close that has done a really good job on this is episode 2. Yeah. Episode 3 with Derek Notman.
Yep.
Derek's
a great guy.
He likes to bring up, he actually, I've noticed he likes to bring up different definitions of words like practice and business. Is it work-life balance, or is it life-work balance? Is it work-life integration? Like, I've heard every definition possible. But what you bring up here is, there's a difference between work-life balance, which is what clearly, the whole achieving balance is all about. It's work and it's life.
Yeah.
But there's also this professional balance that, content creation and client acquisition and client service, right? That's actually part of it too.
Sure.
When so much of our time is spending on like social media marketing, advertising, being a content creator. Like, I'm doing content right now as a podcast,
right? And
I've got tons of content. But if that didn't help me to help other people and bringing clients on or getting speaking engagements, well, is it really effective? And so you bring up a really good point. There's balance between even your personal life and work, but there's also balance in that work zone of content creation and client acquisition. What do you think is the biggest issue? Kind of want to drill down on this one a little bit more because it's interesting. We haven't really talked about it on any other podcast, and you never know where these are going to go. But great discussion here. When you're planning out your time, when you're looking at your professional balance, what is it that you see is maybe some issues for you in trying to balance the content and the client acquisition part?
Man, so I'm a phone dialer by heart, right? Like, a lot of people, I really actually enjoy the one thing that a lot of people hate, and that's dialing the phone. Oddly enough, it was more of a struggle for me to consistently come out with the content and be putting out content that was relatable. And it was such a balance for me, because it was like, eventually I just got a scheduler and the content releases itself and we get it all loaded up and it works. But for me, it was like getting out of the mindset that like dialing is the only way that you can get new clients or new people to work with or new people to have conversations with. It's not true. Now, my contention for everybody that wants to tell me that they never make a dial in their life would be like, maybe you should, because you'd grow your business a lot more quickly that way. But yeah, those are some of the things that, at least for me, it's been like, I'm kind of old school in the way that I think about things. And I've had to force myself to say, And my partner, Peter, he's been tremendous about helping me do this, because he does a really good job of, hey, we got to get the newsletter out. Hey, we got to be posting, a few times a week on both our personal and our BC brokerage page. And, he's a big reason why we're, going to be coming up on 1,000 followers here soon on the BC brokerage page, so, but with that being said, if all we did was concentrate on content creation and podcasts and stuff all day, and we never called people, well, there'd be several less hundred people that worked with us. So finding that has just been my biggest challenge.
Yeah. So some of that is just is getting the client acquisition. You're great on the dials, which is it's so interesting, because that's the world that we both came from, right? That's what they taught us in Northwestern.
Sure.
Dial. Like I don't think I still have it, but I have. Maybe I do. I have the box, the one note, one card system of, okay, let's get to the next card, card. Like it's on the old card dial before they even let us go on the computers. Like you're just on the phone. Yeah. I've never had that issue of calling people. But I know a lot of people now, especially with look at how do we mostly communicate with people? Mm-hmm. We're black and white now. We're text messaging. Yep. With characters and symbols and, emojis and such now, but still like we've gone kind of away from even the audio. Yeah. So it's a crazy evolution. If it's evolution, maybe it's de-evolution, but this brings up this point, that maybe work-life balance, when you talk about the work part, you need to have a balance inside that work, because it's possible then, because what I think where you're alluding to, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth here, Broc, but I'll ask you, sure. Are you alluding to the fact that if you don't have a great professional balance, that will keep you, maybe out of balance with work and life?
100%, 100%. Because if I'm not feeling that sense of balance within my professional life, right? Which your professional life generates a lot of things that are necessities, like money to live, right? Money to save for retirement, money to do things, and a lot of other things, freedom, impact, right? So if I don't feel like what I'm doing, and everybody has something different, right? You're motivated by relationships, freedom, impact. If I don't feel like I'm fulfilled in that way, now when I'm done working for the day and I'm going to do whatever else I'm going to do, that's going to be in my mind all day. Right. Whereas if I have that balance at work, and it can always be improved upon. Right. But if I have that balance at work and I feel good about the day, I set a few appointments, I got on a podcast, I talked to people, I felt productive, posted something on social media. Right. Now I won the day. Now I can go off and, do my personal things like I want to. And I think it's important to note, though, the day should never start, for me at least, should never start with something professional. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they wake up in the morning and they check their inbox, their Outlook, their Google Mail, whatever it is. I think it's horrible, because you've already had your mind racing before you even gave yourself an opportunity to put the day in perspective. But yeah, there's a huge connection there, Travis.
No, those are golden nuggets. Like, this is golden nugget time. You got to, if you can win the day, doesn't it help you to be a better person outside of work? Yes, 100%. There's no question. When I come home, the days where I have to be like, okay, Travis, focus. You just got home, leave everything in the car, all your worries, everything, and go inside. And there are times where I have to do that. And I teach my clients, like, if you had a bum day at work, do not bring that home. Don't take that stress into your family life. Because as soon as you come in and you slam the door and you throw your stuff down, like, it's game over. If you're doing that for attention or whatever,
and guess what?
It's going to affect everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is it's like you have to. And then once you take that personal stuff, right, that personal life, that personal drama back into your work life, then it's a compound effect.
Precisely. And that's the thing, is it works. It's reciprocal. Like, it works both ways. That's the whole balance of the equation, that if your personal life is not winning, right, then it's going to be difficult to be, that much better at work. So it is a balance. Yeah. And so, when people say, I don't really like work-life balance, I call it life-work balance, like Derek, which is great. I don't, diss anyone's, definition of balance. That's why I like asking it. But I think regardless of which way you're looking at it, it's reciprocal.
Oh, it's
a system.
Revolving door.
So if you're winning in life, you're going to win at work because that's who you are.
Yep.
You're a winner. You enjoy it. And you'll find something, whether it's in this industry or some other industry, where you're going to succeed. And if you succeed at work, it's so much, I think, easier to be successful at home because you're full of that energy. When I come home and I've won the day, it's like, hey, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Let's go out to eat, or let's plan that vacation, or
we're going to Disney.
Motivated. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Let's do this, quarterly bonus time. Let's plan our vacations for next year.
Yep.
So, but the other point that you made, which is, I think, crucial, is how you start your day. I'm a big proponent of this, of start the day, with a system, with a specific practical guide. Now, do you have to do this 100% of the time? I don't think so. You have to be flexible because stuff happens. We have a new baby, and if we have a horrible night, it's like, all right, so I'm gonna have a quick breakfast. I'll have a bigger lunch. I'll work out later in the afternoon. Like, there are things that I do as backup, but for the most part, you have a really good point of never start the day with something professional. I want you to go deeper in on this. Tell me and the audience here a little bit why that's so important. I know we've probably heard it, but we've probably heard other advice of, I get up and I spend 2 hours on, work stuff, and I read my workbooks and things are going to help me be motivated, work wise. But why not start with that? Why do the personal first?
Man, for me, it just goes back. And like I said, it just goes back to that clarity of mind, right? I know when I wake up, right? I know what's on my schedule for the next day because I look at it before I put my phone down for the night, right? And then typically you see emails come in for the rest of the night anyway, right? So when I wake up, what I do, and I notice a tangible difference when I do this, but I put the phone away immediately, right? I go out, I meditate, say a prayer, at least 15 minutes, right? Always do it. Some days I miss it. Like you said, we're human. It doesn't always happen. But then I'll read, and this is the one that's kind of give or take, always meditate. And then I'll read something that is nonfiction from before technology was around. So whether it's, Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or somebody like that, just books with wisdom. Like, wow, that's a really great way to frame that. Right. They before computers, before social media, before Twitter, before all the stuff that we're just glued to all day, all the time, these guys had little golden nuggets, right, that are so applicable in today's age. And so I read those. And what I notice is when I do that, I'll be going through the day and something will pop up. It's a problem. Oh, this case isn't getting out of underwriting. This case isn't, going the way that we want it to. And then I'll think, what did I read earlier? And inevitably, there will be something from my meditation or something that I read that I can apply to that situation where I can now think about it from a critical perspective rather than just reacting to it. Right? Oh, dang it. That stinks. I can't believe that this is happening. And then it's a meltdown and then it ruins the rest of your day. It's like, okay, wait, what did you think about, or what did Seneca or whatever, what would Marcus Aurelius say about this? As goofy as that kind of sounds, right? Because we can't talk to him about it. But that's why it's so important to me. And that's why I've focused so hard on doing it, is because I felt that tangible difference. And my business partner, he actually goes, "Are you like a hippie or something now?" And I was like, "I don't think so, man, but it is helping." So that's why I do it. It's just been great.
Yeah. Well, there's so many, you said so many really good things here that I absolutely can relate to. Again, I'm not the time management Nazi. Okay. I'm not that. I definitely believe in having flexibility. So if things go wrong, you have some backups.
Yeah.
But if I miss like my personal reading time or stuff like that in the morning, I have my backup. It's my drive to work. I put on, some scriptures that it can read to me, some great, motivational speakers that are outside of work, right? Things that are just about me personally or spiritually that can hit me. And so I'm a big, audiobook person. And, people ask me all the time, well, Travis, I don't want to read your book. I want to wait till it gets on audio. That's fine. You can actually pre-order this right now at achievingBalanceBook.com. If not, hopefully it's done by the time this airs. But it's so fun because I like to have that read to me as kind of my backup. But when I'm very intentional and I have that time in the morning, I very much read things before tech. I read scriptures. I pray. I meditate. I write. I journal. This is a lost art. Like I literally have my work journal here right in front of me. So I can write ideas, not tasks, not to-dos, but just ideas that show up that I can actually write out and sketch. I do a lot of drawing and stuff like that. But that connection with your spirit, that connection with yourself, that higher wisdom and higher power, I think is crucial to start your day so you can win it, right?
Absolutely.
But then you also mentioned, getting stuff before tech every night. Before I go to bed, I put the little kids to bed. We have older kids, we have little kids. The little kids go to bed, and actually have them do a set of affirmations, and they follow that with me. And we've been doing this since they were young. But literally for like 10 years or so, I've been doing this. And then I read them a book, or I tell a story that has a principle, right? Something that they can look forward to and they can catch, oh, that's the phrase, or that's the principle throughout the story. And lately I've been reading these books about young Thomas Edison, young Martha Washington, not Margaret, Martha Washington. And what's interesting is that I read one about the first flyers. Oh, come on. Why am I thinking? It's the brothers.
The Wright brothers.
Thank you for saying that. Wright brothers. Yep. Everybody's screaming, the Wright brothers. Yeah, I know. They were like inventors. They turned to bike repairmen, and then they started working the airplane. And weren't actually the first to fly, but they were the first to fly over a long period. And they started making this available to the world. But anyway, that said, by the time I'm done with these little books, I'm like tears in my eyes going, oh, they made it. Like they conquered. And it's been like an inspiration to me, even as I like reading these stories to my kids. So I know 100%, whether it's, some nonfiction, scriptures, just good books about, autobiographies of people, or even when they're young, even if you're reading them to your kids, taking those principles and learning from them to motivate you is huge. So I think that was really a golden nugget kind of detour that I didn't expect. And I'm really grateful that you shared with us, Broc, on the show. So thank you.
Those are absolutely, man. Those are the best things. I love going off on little tangents. Sometimes that's when the best things happen, right?
That's it. No, and another one I actually wrote down to maybe talk about is you started, hey man, what am I, a hippie? And I thought, I had a mentor who had the craziest idea. And actually what he did is he said, listen, when I'm struggling and I need to make a business decision, he goes into like a make-believe boardroom. And in the make-believe boardroom, he has Tony Robbins right there. He's got like a CEO of, a big company over here. Like he's got all these people that he lined up in his mind. Maybe it is one of your favorite authors. You don't even have to be alive, right? Sure. But they're in the room, and he sets them up they're in a boardroom. And what he'll do is he'll take his idea and he'll say, Tony, what do you think about that? And then he'll imagine like what Tony would say to him. Yes. And what advice, because he knows, Tony's stuff so well. Right. And then he does it the same thing with like any other CEO and other people. He goes around the room with those who are in the boardroom, and he gets some great feedback. Wow. And I thought, okay, awesome. That's really far out there, dude. I was being like hippie or whatever, but I think there's some truth to that. I think is very applicable. It's like, who do you go to? Who's in your room? Who's in your boardroom that you can go to when you're really having to make those decisions? And what principles would they tell you so that you can kind of put those together and say, gee, that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point, man. I've never heard that, but I might try it. Hopefully the windows aren't open, because I might look a little bit weird in here.
Well, he goes kind of far. He says he actually even goes into like their voices, and I'm like, that's dude, amazing. There's the line, and like that's where you crossed it, man.
He's talking like Napoleon and Alexander the Great in there. I love it, man.
Exactly. Like, I mean, who's in your virtual boardroom? Your make-believe boardroom that can help you. But I think, as you meditate, pray, and other things, I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. I want God in my boardroom. Yeah. I want him to say, hey, this is what I think you should do. I'm going to listen to that voice as much as I possibly can. Yeah. But there's other times where I feel like, well, he's directing me to go ask this person, or I should read this book, or I should do other things. I'm not always get the answer all the time when I pray and meditate, but oftentimes I do. But I love these ideas of like, who do you go to for principles? Who do you go to for ideas that's going to help you balance out your professional balance? Yeah. Yeah. Well, go ahead. No,
I was just going to, I think it's such a relevant thing, right? Because it's like these ideas were around, before we had every piece of information at our fingertips, right? These guys had to sit around Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Seneca. I just happen to be really into, all the Greek stuff, but these ideas were around before we had information, everything. So they had to critically think about life situations and life in a way to where they were just discovering it by the day and building upon thoughts that they already had, not reading like 50 tweets and then not being sure if something that came out of their mouth later was something they were thinking or something they read in a tweet earlier, So I think it's so applicable and such an awesome thing.
Yeah. When I think about, hey man, I'm going to give up on this thing. I think of like Viktor Frankl. I'm like, yeah. Victor would not give up.
No,
he just would not.
No.
And like, that brings up that principle of like, never give up. And Plato, Socrates, some of the greatest thinkers ever. Like I want them in my boardroom because I want to know like what they would think. And if you're not reading them, if all you're doing is tweets and Facebook posts and some people are posting really good quotes from those people, but read their book, read their stuff. Listen to it if you don't want to read it like I do. Like I'd much rather 1.5 speed listen to it and digest it and then decide, is this something I want to keep on my shelf, right? Something I want to go back to as a resource. Well, that was a really fun detour, but I think it really, just emphasizes balance in different facets of balance, work-life balance, professional balance. And I know that you help advisors with their balance in a way that I don't. You help them really kind of outsourcing the insurance part of the financial planning equation. Tell us a little bit about how you help advisors to have balance in that way.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to understand that you can't be the greatest at all things. Right. You might be a great financial planner, but you might not be the best investment manager, know the most about investments, but you might be able to sit down at a table with someone and really get, where do you want to be? What do you want for you and your family? Where do you want to be personally, professionally, financially? Where do you want to be? Right. And a lot of those times, especially if people didn't come from kind of the background that we did, what that means is they don't know a lot about the insurance field. And it's an ever evolving and changing thing. And there's constantly new products coming out and there's new technologies, albeit a little bit slower most of the time in the investment industry. But we take that stuff off their plate and help them achieve balance by giving them their time back. And, of course, we help facilitate different products like life insurance and disability and annuities and long-term care, but we do policy analysis for them. And it really helps them because they could sit here and go through this 50-page document and read every rider and what it means and how all this stuff breaks down. But if you just upload it to our website, we'll turn around within 24 business hours and give you a breakdown as to, hey, number one, is this thing good or not? Okay, no, we'll tell you. What do the riders mean? Are they competitive? Was this policy placed for someone who uses tobacco products where if they just use somebody else, they could save, several $1,000s a year? And people some advisors want to learn more about this, but most of the people that are financial planners don't want to be insurance experts, right? And so that's what we do. And so we're able to help them focus on things like meeting with clients, working on financial plans while not having to be insurance experts. And I think they really appreciate that. And that's not to say that they're not informed and we don't educate them on, what's going on. It's just that we can break it down in a way that they're going to be able to understand in a more streamlined and efficient manner.
Yeah, this is so crucial. Like I said, I still remember when we were talking, I was on the road driving and listening to your story going, dude, I have to go back to my California, dude, this is amazing. Yeah. What you're doing is taking the insurance field and financial, advising industry and saying, okay, we're going to breed the bridge to helping those who don't necessarily want to be on the insurance side, but really good financial planning, the greats, the best practice is analyzing the insurance, making sure that disability is there, making sure that there's a long-term care need, that it's not pulling from their portfolio, because that is not protecting their assets. It's asset protection. So, if that's the income, if it's the loss of the income, if it's unexpected death, whatever it is, the fact that you're here to help them to analyze that. So what does that look like if I, was an advisor and, Joe client comes in and they've got 4 different policies? Why is it beneficial for your time? Because I think it is, but why is it beneficial to say, okay, I'm going to let Broc break this down for me and give me his analysis instead of me just going in there and spending the time to do it myself?
Yeah. Well, because there could have been a reason that policy was placed in force, and they might need it, right? We don't know their medical history. We don't know what they have going on. Whenever I approach a policy, my thoughts revolve around, was this thing solving something or was it sold to someone, right? And that may not be something that advisor knows. They might be able to read the ins and outs. What's the policy? Okay. Do they need a term policy or does it need to be permanent? Does this make sense for them? Is there any type of insurability issues where they should just go ahead and keep this policy because they might not be able to get another one? But it's also coming from the mindset of knowing what it's like to be on the other side of the fence, right? Where you're going out and you're talking to people about insurance and, talking about people about buying different types of insurance and what that conversation usually goes like. And a lot of those financial planners who have never had any of the experience in the insurance field, not knowing what that conversation goes like initially, right? And so I also bring that to the table, and they actually get someone's perspective who, now works with fee-only advisors and has formerly worked at a company like Northwestern, where I was actually talking to people about insurance all the time. So I can tell them about the good, bad, and ugly of every part of each industry.
Well, I love that because to me, that makes a lot of sense because you're kind of getting a fresh look without any of the bias.
Right.
So having someone like you, if like, okay, here, Broc, here's the policy. You tell me what you think about it. I'm not going to tell you anything else, right? That you can look at it and give an analysis. And with your understanding and your expertise, say, this is why it should be used, why it shouldn't be used, and give it back to the advisor. The advisor saves time, and then the advisor is able to be more informed and still looks like the good guy, right? Bringing it back to the table saying, we looked at it. It's awesome. You should keep it. Or, this is something that needs to be replaced or fixed.
Yeah. And they love having, the relationship that we have, because I don't have an initiative other than just do the thing that's right by the advisor and the client. Right. Because if I say, oh, we'll cancel that, we can get them another policy. Right. And I'll be the agent of record. Okay. But if that wasn't the necessary thing and that backfires, guess who's never going to work with me again? That advisor. Right. So I have no interest in doing anything other than what's right, because first and foremost, my relationship is with the advisor. And then I get the opportunity to serve their clients. Right. So I think that's the biggest thing too, is that, and that's looking at the policies. But when we facilitate the policies, I'm scanning the entire industry to bring that client to a carrier that's going to fit them in exactly the way that they need it to, not bringing a carrier to them, trying to sell them on a reason to buy that carrier. Right. And so I think they really love having someone that they can trust, someone that they know is not going to upsell their clients, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to complete a financial plan. What's important to me is that they're doing the proper financial planning and implementing the right types of insurance that are going to help their client get to the finish line. And that's different for everybody. And there's different ways to look at it. But what's important to me is that the proper financial planning is being done, and I'm implementing the proper insurance to fit within the spectrum of that financial plan.
Well said. Well said. The thought came to my mind back to my planning days. There was an evolution. I started with State Farm. I went to Northwestern. I went from P&C and life and health to life and health and insurance or investments.
Sure.
To I really want to do the investments and not be an insurance salesman anymore. I didn't get into this. I wanted to be a planner. And so when I left and became independent, I was charging a fee for a plan. And I actually decided I was going to just be the quarterback. That's it. That's all I was going to be. It was just a quarterback. And I was just going to charge the fee for the plan. And I was going to outsource everything else. I kept all my licenses, but I partnered with someone to do the insurance. I partnered with someone else to do the investments. I partnered in long-term care, accounting, everything. I set it up that way before I got into this field of helping advisors. Yeah. And I thought it was a brilliant idea because then I have specialists in each of these areas. So not only are you specialists, but I love what you said, that your relationship is with the advisor.
Right.
So if you go and you screw a client,
right. For lack of a better way to say it.
You lost the relationship with the advisor forever.
Right.
And then that advisor is going to say, do not work with Broc. Right. And then your reputation's done. Right. Where, that happens to one client. They may not have that influence on the industry. They may know a few friends and they're not going to refer you. But they're probably not going to have that kind of that check, like our government's supposed to have. Anyway, checks is meaning and balance, checks and balances. Sorry, man. Talk about a road we're not going down today. But let me ask you this. As I was thinking, what if I already have a good friend? I have someone who I already send a lot of my insurance business to, and I'm a fee-only financial advisor. Why would I maybe want to give you a shot or work with BC Brokerage over my friend who's in the industry? And I know you're not prepared for that question, but maybe you get this all the time.
I'm actually prepared for that question.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a great question. My number one thing that I would tell people is, maybe you do have a guy, right? Maybe you're in Houston, maybe you're in Austin and you have a guy that you work with. Now, here's my question. Is his model based around working with people in other states if you need to do so, right? So we work with people in all 50 states, never an issue. Right? You have a client in another state, no problem. We can get them insurance. The second thing would be, I think we're so technologically in front of other people that are doing something similar to what we're doing that it's so much easier across the board for the advisor to get a quote, for the advisor to upload a policy, for the client to apply for insurance. It's all via DocuSign, right? It's not the inconvenience of, hey, I'm going to fax something over, sign this and send it back. The website's super consumer centric and friendly. We're always saying, how can we do more with doing less, right? And making that easy. And all the time, and we're so blessed because of it. And this is a lot of Peter's doing. He's like, how do we simplify this process? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll be on the phone, right? But we talk all the time, and it's just, we work with people in all 50 states. We have that relationship. The advisor knows who they're going to all the time. We've got record of the policies that they have. Listen, if you want to work with your guy in your state for the cases that are in your state, by all means. But when you need somebody that can do a case in, Alaska, give us a call. So I would say those are the big things that really separate us and why I think people choose to use us.
Love it. Well, this has been a fascinating interview. I love interviewing really smart people. You're a really smart guy. You've got something excellent here as an offering to other advisors. And obviously I get it. If you're an insurance guy too, you're probably not going to be like calling up Broc, but it's possible that, other advisors who might need someone like Broc to help them out. I appreciate your time and your willingness to help other advisors to have this balance professionally, personally, your insights and how fun this conversation kind of has evolved. I think our audience is really going to love it. And so, I thank you for your time. And, if advisors or others out there who want to connect with you, what's the best way to hit you up, Broc? Where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Broc Buckles. It's Broc without the K. Buckles, just like it sounds, like a belt buckle with the S at the end. So super simple. You can find us on LinkedIn, bc-brokerage.com. Send me an email, whatever you want to do, but you can even book with us right off the site. So it's really easy to get a hold of us. We're not trying to hide from anybody. Come talk to me.
Excellent. As always, thanks for being here on the show. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you like, please share, comment, review Balanced Advisor Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks again, Broc, for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, Travis.